Yeah, it's off.
You're very welcome back. You're watching the Daily Rundown, and I've been rejoined by Ian and AJ. How amazing! Gee, you had a taste of that coffee, didn't you?
It was fantastic.
Wasn't it absolutely gorgeous?
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I wasn't a massive coffee drinker until the last few years. It's kind of like a little treat for me, but I feel like it's one of those things, isn't it? When you know, don't you? Like now, how can I just go into my local coffee chain shop now and just get a latte? Do you coffee drinker, Ian?
I am, and Coates Coffee, just down the way from the studio.
All right. Good.
Whenever I can, I drop in and get a bag of their Warehouse City.
So you're into your coffee properly, you're at home.
I've got a hand grinder. I'm probably building up great big muscles from hand grinding the coffee.
Honestly,
it's from grinding the coffee.
That's what Sean just said. He said invest in a good grinder was the big part of it.
I don't have a grinder. I get ground coffee, but I heard him say that it was a mistake in that apparently I'm getting stale coffee when I'm drinking it.
Right, okay. Well, now you've been told.
I need to get a grinder myself, yeah.
That was great though. Hart and Graft, the coffee roasters, before the break. But this is the part of the show where my guests get to feel free to get something off their chests. It might be a rant, a call to arms, or a chance to praise something fantastic in their lives at the moment. They are here for there's something to say, and who's going to go first?
Oh, go on then.
That's very polite of you, AJ.
I'm going to be cheeky, and I'm going to tell you about my book. Well, a little bit about my book that I wrote. I wrote this 7 years ago. It was a little bit about the potential danger of if Sarah Palin had become president of the United States, and obviously watching the elections in the US and the build-up, and the 2-year build-up to the actual election itself, watching the rise of Donald Trump, it feels like this could be coming true, which is scary because this story involved lots of nuclear explosions and the United States destroying itself.
Wow.
And trying its best to destroy Europe in the process. So I'm a little bit... It's really scary to watch it from the outside, the American elections, and to get a taste of what the right wing, primarily in the States, does, the wild things some of them come up with and they say. I mean, I was responding earlier today, going back to the Sadiq Khan becoming the mayor. I was responding to some Trump fans who were going on about how now that he's the mayor, and now that there's a couple of adverts for a mosque on the side of a bus, anybody who turns up in London is going to get beheaded.
Right.
And other ridiculous stuff that these people say and believe. And that's it. I think it's not just that they say it, it's sort of a worrying number of them believe it.
Right.
And I took lots and lots of the rhetoric that came out of the 2008 election against Obama and the sort of wild stuff that Palin was saying, and I put it in a book. And I managed to write a fairly positive story because most of it takes place afterwards, when everything's recovering. But it flashes back to the craziness of a war where the Americans in this one, they decided they were going to they were going to go and attack Muslim populations in other countries.
Right.
And it sounds like the sort of thing that Donald Trump would love to do.
So you've done a kind of a sort of a predictor, or
I know,
hopefully,
it's scary.
Sorry, hopefully not a predictor, but a potential prediction.
It's a reflection of a particular type of noise that I've been hearing from the States. Because I've been, I've spent a whole 2 weeks in America. It's not like I know the country at all. But I follow the elections and I read a lot of the stuff, and I read lots of commentary from that site. I don't read as much right-wing stuff because I had dared to actually point things out to them and tell them when they were wrong, and they don't. They banned me from quite a lot of their news groups, so that they didn't have to listen to me anymore. But I read a lot about what they think and the sort of craziness that they come out with, and I tried to reflect it in the book.
So do you put a lot of research based on that and whatever's going on around 2008 into this? So obviously going into these elections, you're kind of well versed on American politics in that way.
There's a lot of it that I don't understand, but I try to follow it as best I can in the commentary and stuff. And I've got a rough idea of how this whole candidate stuff works and the way they hold a whole load of mini elections before they have a proper election. It's just...
So do you actually think that Donald Trump is a massive threat to world peace then?
If he could concentrate for long enough, yeah, he probably would be. But you get the impression that he'd get bored and he'd just storm out and let people who might actually know what they're doing do all the talking, rather than actually going off on building walls and banning Muslims and everything else he wants to do.
Because he seems to me like Donald Trump seems to me like the kind of guy who just wants to be popular and he wants to win something. It's not necessarily that he knows what to do with it afterwards, but he just wants to sort of get. He doesn't necessarily want to make America great again. He wants to make himself great.
Well, how do you feel about the suggestions that he's trolling? He's just a troll like that. He's not actually, like you say, he's not that interested in. But there's suggestion that he's actually very, very good friends with the Clintons, for example.
He was.
At one point, yeah.
I think he invited them to one of his many weddings, and he held an awful lot of views that would be considered to be Democrat, but he's blown with the wind. He's come across and gone to the dark side, in effect, and you get the feeling. I agree with the people that I read who basically said that maybe he started out trolling and then he got carried away with it, and he's basically just a big kid, and he's people are paying attention to him, and he's getting all of this wow, and he's on the news, and people are talking about him, and he wants the attention, and he's decided to go for it, and he's somewhere along the line, it seems like he's convinced himself he actually can do this job.
Well, somebody was trying to talk to him about foreign politics, which obviously with your book, foreign politics is quite important to world peace, but he kept just going on about his hands and how he had normal-sized hands. They're not tiny hands, they're normal-sized hands, folks. So, he seems far more interested in himself than his policies and how he could better the world. He
does come across as quite easily wounded,
yes,
soft shell.
Which maybe isn't a good thing if he's got the nuclear.
He likes to brag, and when people make negative comments against him, he likes to go after them. And he now has a whole load of people on Twitter and everywhere else who will go after them as well, and people who will physically attack people.
Are you one of those? Do you troll him on Twitter?
I've been trying, because obviously I really want sales for my book. I've been trying desperately to get a rise out of Trump and his fans. 99 pence until the risk of Donald Trump being president is gone. 99 pence on Amazon for the ebook, not for the paper book.
And Sounds of Soldiers.
Yeah, Sounds of Soldiers.
And we should stress it was written a while ago, but there's some scarily accurate stuff.
I started it in 2008, just before Obama got elected. I wrote most of it in 2009, and the first version was published in 2010. It hasn't been particularly revised since then, so it was first published about 6 years ago.
Right, and so if these predictions come true, which is they'll be horrible.
If these predictions come true, I really need to find a bunker.
And secondly, if they come true, your next book, please write about me winning some fabulous
The three of us winning the lottery on a shared
the lottery
ticket.
or the shared lotto.
And I should probably say that everyone else in the back room as well, because otherwise we'll be taken off.
Yeah, we'll take it off. Thanks very much for that, Ian. AJ, what's your something to say this evening?
We're talking about space, folks. So I've found out when the next things are happening.
Oh, did you have a look? With
space, I have. So I've written all this down, so apologies if I keep looking at some notes. But on the 11th of May, which is this Wednesday, we've got the Serpens, which is a constellation, I think, or part of a constellation. I'm not a great space expert, but so Serpens is going to be at its highest point around midnight, and you can see that through a pair of binoculars or a small telescope. Look that up online.
With no eye protection or...
No, it's at night, so yeah, midnight is fine,
right.
It's all good. Get yourself out there, look at that. Now on Friday the 13th, this is actually something that without any special eyewear you can see. So on Friday the 13th, I'm telling you to go to dark places, which probably isn't a good thing to do on Friday the 13th because it's quite unlucky and you might get injured, so be careful. But yeah, it's the Scorpid meteor shower, so it's going to be around 10 degrees above the horizon in Portsmouth and Southampton, and then in the north in Lancashire and Manchester it's about 7 degrees above the horizon.
Right.
And you'll be able to see that with the naked eye, but the darker it is and the less light pollution you have, the better the show will see. So that literally a natural firework display in the sky. Get yourself out there and watch that. Sunday the 15th, there is a conjunction between the moon and Jupiter. They'll be coming on a close approach, not a close approach together physically, but from our eyesight we should be able to see them quite close to one another in the sky. That can be seen with the naked eye as well, although better through a telescope or binoculars. And I also wrote that down. That's will be visible about 43 degrees above the horizon in Manchester and Lancashire, and in Portsmouth and Southampton it's 46 degrees that you should be able to see that, and that is around 9 o'clock, I believe. And then finally on Saturday the 21st of May there is a blue moon. Now, a blue moon isn't actually blue, but it's an additional full moon in the calendar.
An extra moon.
An extra moon, and that happens every 2.7 years. So it's not as sort of spread out as the transit of Mercury, but it's still something to see in the sky. So lots going on in
space.
In space, yeah.
You did really well there, AJ. That was when I mentioned to you when we were talking about Mercury. That's the full month. What would you call that? The space calendar? The science calendar?
So tempted to say astrology.
I'd say it's just the astronomical calendar. So yeah, there's lots going on all the time. Lots to see. If you do have any interest in cosmology or astronomy, you can look it up online. There's lots.
You can tweet it later on. I think you should. You should tweet that information for anybody who's got it.
Fair enough. I will tweet stuff that you can look up and.
Perfect.
That's your homework.
That's your homework. You're obviously good at return on a little task like that. Well done, AJ.
Okay, not a problem at all.
Thank you both of you for your somethings to say. We're going to go for our final break of the evening, and when I come back, we're going to be talking about the slightly more unusual stories of the day. See you soon.